You ready to go? Okay, I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. First thing is assignment for request for council action. We have 19102, increased expenditure for Mason Custom Builders, public buildings. Oh, Mr. Cole's up. 19103, accepting award of funds, Ohio Law Enforcement Body Armor Program. 19104, discussion of parking enforcement program. 1905, state bid equipment for new police cruisers, Power Public Safety. 106, Medina Municipal Airport Consultant Selection. 19107, agreement with Medina City Schools, Reagan Park, Eliza Northrop Connector. 19108, income tax reallocation to be discussed at 612 budget hearing. 19109, agreement with Branstad and Kira Medina County Design, Planning, and Construction Management Services for joint construction of county city courthouse. 19110, new EPA regulations, stormwater management, erosion control, and illicit discharge. 19111, expenditure over $15,000 for Data Command LLC for the water department. First one we have then is 19102, increased expenditure for Mason Custom Builders for the public buildings. Nino.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Coyne. So this is with respect to the engine house project, which has come a long way. We're 2 years since its inception. This request will allow the increase of PO 2019-850 by $5,000. We've had Mason Custom Builders helping us, working on that project for roughly 2 years. So a couple things, when we received quotes and we're coming up with budgetary numbers, things changed a little bit. We installed 2 steel doors at the very back of the engine house. What became a little pricey was the bricks and block were deteriorating, so we had to rebuild basically that entire wall and had some cost overruns. The ceiling in the restrooms, the ceilings had water leaks, so we did part of the ceiling. There's an 18-inch concrete wall that had to be drilled through and run some conduit. So all in all, the project is almost done. We have a ribbon cutting set for next Friday at 5 o'clock.
21st.
I'm sorry.
21st.
21st. I keep saying next Friday.
You have a little more time to work on it.
The 21st. This is my hope, the last increase with the POs. We had a $2,000 increase in architectural trim work for the stairwell and the staircase, and this should wrap up that project as we're eager to see it complete. And Mr. Lamb's been there several times. He was actually there today.
Yeah, it looks great. I was talking to Jonathan when I came in the building today, and I was telling him, if you didn't see that, if you had seen that space pre, and when I go up now, and I've seen it a lot now, when I go up, it's almost like I'm in a different building. It's so, it's been so well done. And, as Nino explained, some of the things just added up, particularly, some of the work downstairs. But it's almost ready to go. We're going to have a rehearsal, I think, for the ribbon cutting next Friday, and then the following Friday.
Maybe we should hold a council meeting there to bring back some nostalgia.
You're welcome to do that.
We could.
There's room. I do want to add, lastly, that these funds are reimbursable through the capital improvement grant that Kimberly and Barbara secured from the state as well.
Seems like it's been more than 2 years, though. I thought it was 4 years. Seriously.
It feels like a lifetime, to be honst with you.
I think Johnny was in kindergarten when it started. Going to high school now.
Okay.
A couple of weeks. Okay, any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank
All in
you for
favor?
that.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. 19103, accept award of funds from the Ohio Law Enforcement Body Armor Program.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the Attorney General and Bureau Workers Compensation Grant for our body armor. We were awarded $23,501.85. We're requesting permission to accept that grant.
Questions?
Any strings attached?
No.
Move to approve with the emergency clause. Second, including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 19104, discussion of a parking enforcement program for the police. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. The 6th District Federal Court of Appeals recently ruled that it was unconstitutional for the police or parking enforcement officers to mark tires. And that's what our parking enforcement officer used to keep track of 3-hour parking, 4-hour parking up on the square. So In consideration of that, I asked to have a discussion about some alternatives that we can use. Because we can't chalk tires, they've come up with this concept called digital chalking. What it is, it's a small device. It's basically a PDA, a phone. And what it does is takes a picture of the vehicle. You document where the valve stems are at on the vehicle, and then you put in the information, the license plate number, the date, the time, the location, and then it sets a timer in 3 hours that notifies the parking enforcement officer to come back and check and see if the vehicle's still there. If it is, it prints out a citation. Person can then go to a web portal and pay the citation through a company. And it's managed by the company in the cloud. They retain all the photographs, all the information, and of course, they take a processing fee as well. In researching this, we used 2018 as essentially the last year of Bill Pavlik as our parking enforcement officer. So his activity and the program, the payroll for 2018 was $22,972. The revenue from the violations was $17,030. Obviously, we're not in this to make money, but I prefer not to lose money either. We've subsidized this for many, many years, the parking enforcement program. And there's two issues that I'd like to discuss. One, the implementation of this digital chalking program. And two, the fines, the fine amounts for the citations. As you can see on the mobile parking enforcement comparison sheet I gave you, there is the current $10 and the revenue that brought in fine money, and then it's adjusted out for $15, $20, and $25 if you choose to increase the fine amounts.
Now, on the case itself in the Sixth Circuit, I mean, I would assume it's just not chalking tires, you can't touch the car.
Correct.
So that's,
Except to put a ticket on the windshield.
Right.
now, the upfront cost, the cheapest package for the camera system, I mean, I guess is there a maintenance contract and all that? Is that?
There's licensing fees. Each one has its own built-in fees, and that's why we kind of gave you a total at the end of the year, yearly cost for the program. And they're fairly close. You know, maybe $250 difference roughly.
Now, you have to buy the hardware too, or can't we use existing phones, or that doesn't, there's no program that has existing phones?
No, it is the hardware. It comes with a camera, a printer, and of course, the software license.
Is that the only utility that would be accepted in court? I'm thinking, you know, we get the parking attendant a phone, takes his own picture, and set his own timer.
The issue we have with that is then we would have to manage the data, we would have to manage the public record that he's creating.
Okay. Would that be more cost effective? Or would we have to add more personnel to do that then?
We wouldn't have to add more personnel, it would be a little bit overwhelming that he would have to categorize each one of those photographs.
Once we create the record, we'd have to maintain that record even if a citation was not issued. So we probably have to have a server dedicated to thousands of pictures.
Okay.
Because as you can imagine, you're going up and down the line, you're taking a picture of each one, you come back and maybe you write one citation, but you've taken 10 pictures. Because we've created a record, we're now obligated under the public records law to maintain it for a period of time.
Okay.
Potentially 600 pictures a day.
Okay, all right.
He could be using.
Thanks for, paints a big enough picture.
Right. In addition to that, either one of these companies, or both of these companies, manage that entire process from the photograph to the timer to the actual issuance of the citation.
Okay.
Would it issue a citation if it's the same car, but they just backed it up 6 inches? I mean, I'm trying to figure a way, how do we?
Yes.
How do you go to court? Like, if it's my car, I go to court, it's not my car. I moved it, I came back, we were, and I moved, I was gone for 15 minutes, I came back, the parking spot was still there, so you can't give me a ticket. Who's the burden of proof on?
Well, the burden of proof is on us, of course.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you prove it, I guess, isn't it?
Well, we use the documentation from that system, and we argue it before an arbiter.
Well, the other question is, you don't usually argue, these are usually just paid.
They are.
You usually don't go to in front of a jury or in front of a judge, none of that usually happens, but I mean, what has happened in other communities?
It's civil, ours is civil,
Oh, is it?
parking
Okay.
enforcement. So
Oh, that's
there's a
right.
hearing officer,
Right.
and then I believe if they're not satisfied with that, then it can go across the street.
I can tell you this last year, I was unfortunate enough to get one of those computerized tickets.
You met Bill?
No, no. This was down in Florida.
Oh.
And it was in front of a convenience store. I pulled in and it had a parking meter there, except it didn't take coins, it took a credit card. The only thing I wanted to do was go up, right up there and put my 55 cents in the paper machine to get a newspaper out. And I could see the car. And I looked around and there was not my fault, I was I got out and as I'm walking up to them, I see the guy come walking by. And the same thing, he holds this thing up, takes, I run over and I said, sir, I'm right here. It was too late, it's already done. It not only printed out the citation, which at that time was $35, it did give me the ability to, if I wanted to fight but it had a picture of my car, it was a rental car, my car, the license plate number, and the parking meter showing that it was zero. And it was $35 if I paid it within 24 hours. After that, it went up to $65. So,
Expensive newspaper.
yeah. And if you try to, I mean, the only problem that I saw on it is I just wanted to pay it right away. So I called the 800 number. And they answered, and I listened to this recording for 20 minutes, the music playing and stuff. Then the phone went dead, so I called them back. Oh, they're in, not my phone, they're in. So I called them back, and the same thing happened after 20 minutes. So I was able, through the hotel I was staying at, find out where this local office was. This is in Clearwater, Florida. And so I had to drive downtown, and the office was in this little parking deck. And I went in there, and they were real nice. So I said, I'm guilty, but you got a problem with your phone. She says, well, what's your cell number? So I gave her my cell number. She goes, oh, no, I have your cell number here. We would have called you back in 2 hours. That's what the recording didn't say anything about if somebody doesn't answer the phone.
Yeah.
So there was some problems with it, but yeah, pretty
Did you
slick.
put money in the meter when you went to pay the ticket, when you went to that?
You
place?
better believe I did.
They called you back in 26 hours.
You can stay there longer, you already got the ticket, you might have just stayed there for
Yeah,
more hours.
well, I did. I walked over and got my newspaper and.
Got some coffee.
No, it was a handheld device.
We must look real serious on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, we're-
It was a handheld device, and like I said,
Well, he brings a good point up in talking about this. If you remember, the city of Norton did this civil thing, kind of similar to what you're talking about. The question is, do we want to do this? Because I know the city of Norton, I mean, they raised $500,000, but they made so many people mad.
Oh, that's
Because-
totally different. I'm sorry.
I know, but it's the same kind of program you're talking about. Somebody else is managing this information, or are we the only ones that'll issue the ticket? I mean, because they used a third party through a civil thing for speeding and sent you the $200 fine, and, you know, the question is, what kind of perception would that be giving people? So my question is not only about the tickets, but what kind of message are we sending? I mean, I understand not the parking thing, but we're doing it differently. Is it something that's gonna be viewed as heavy-handed? You know, like Norton, I think that was totally ridiculous that Norton did that. But are we gonna be viewed that way? That's my question.
That was a speed camera that they were using.
Well, it was an officer from Norton doing it,
Right.
but it would be, just the tickets would be sending out $200 tickets. Are we getting?
So
some-
these tickets come from us?
They come from us.
Okay,
It
they
would
don't
be-
have the name of a company on them?
It will have Medina Police Department on it.
Yeah, it won't say whatever the company is that has our information.
It may. I haven't seen
Yeah.
the
I'm just
exact-
concerned about that
That's the
perception.
thing
That's
that
what
would bother me.
Right.
What, if we did, so we did roughly $17,000 last year.
Yes, sir.
How many cars was that? I mean, so how many people then were ticketed?
I have to do the math on that, and it's
I thought the
dependent
number
on
there
when
was
they,
about 1,700.
1,700.
well, when they, if they paid their ticket.
But if that was,
immediately.
yeah, and if it was not the same car,
Right.
we know that?
I'm sure
We
some
have a
of them,
break- I mean, I
I'm
was
sure
just
many of
interested,
them are.
if you take the district, the parking district, and the money that we're spending, and the question now about the enforcement, how many people are there that are over parking, you know, how frequently are people actually over parking in the district? I mean, is it a big issue that there's a lot of people who continue to over park if there was nobody monitoring it?
I think it's it's twofold. There are obviously parking violations in the square, but the parking enforcement officer also serves as a deterrent for the shop owners. We're there so that
Yeah.
vehicles are moving, so that new customers have
I
available parking spaces.
I understand that part. I was just trying to think if there's 365 days in a year and there were 1,700 people ticketed, how many people, what does that break down to a day?
Well, he doesn't do it at night, and he doesn't do it on
Right.
weekends.
Right, so it's not 365 days, so it's 5 days a week. So we don't do it on Saturday.
Typically, we don't. We have been for the farmer's market due to a request. So every other weekend, we'd be there for a few.
But we don't want to
hours.
do, we had meters, we don't want that again. But there's other things than meters, and maybe, is there another more cost-effective way rather than taking pictures? Like, you have to put your money in a central box, like some parking things do, that correspond to a parking spot, so our guy only has to go to that particular booth to look at it. I mean, is there anything that's more cost-effective than buying a camera system that we might want to implement? Like in Akron, they have parking, but you have to go to one little thing and
Mid-block or
either do a credit card or put $1 in or whatever.
So they do, both these companies do that. It is cost prohibitive. One, the technology to set up the box. It's all through the internet, and then that information gets fed to vehicles, parking enforcement vehicles who have plate readers in the vehicles. So they're driving up and down these rows of these parking spots in these cities, and the plate readers are reading the plates, and it'll hit on a vehicle if it didn't pay or address pay for the parking spot at the kiosk.
I don't want to see us go back to paying. I mean, I don't like the idea of paying again when we have, we got a really good economy downtown, and the parking meter, when we took the parking meters out, it was because, we felt it a deterrent really somewhat for people to casually come in, stop, and go into a store. And that's why the chalk thing works so well, because the
Right.
chalk thing was pretty non-intrusive, I mean, it's a chalk mark on your tire. But lots of times now, we get, people get so silly now that, you can't put a chalk on the tire because that somehow is, I don't know what that is, it's some kind of infringement on your,
It's an unreasonable search and seizure according to the
it's
system.
not clear what you're searching, but, searching for the tire to put the chalk on. But I agree, I don't know if there was a simpler way to do it, because I think if you break down the math, it doesn't seem like, it would have to do the math, we'd have to do the math. I don't know, I'd like to know how many cars per day do we have who are violating that 2-hour limit? And is it reasonable, is there enough cars that would do that we want to implement a program? It seems kind of complicated to me to have to walk around and take a picture of the tires, but.
It's essentially the same thing that we're doing now, rather than doing a physical chalk
Is
on the
it
tires.
cost effective? I mean, in the overall economy of the downtown, is that a cost effective program to have, that we're gonna now, where we'll be paying the person to take the pictures like we're paying the person now to chalk, and then we're gonna be paying additionally because we need the technology to do it, because we're not allowed to chalk? When in effect, like you said, we're doing the exact same thing minus the chalk.
Right.
But somebody's gonna make a profit off what we're doing.
I think you have to have some kind of a deterrent as far as time limits, because if we don't do that, and we see it now, there are employees that will abuse the system. We have employees now, for some businesses, that use that, they factor that in as a cost of living, their daily ticket. We found that out in the past. So if you have no deterrent, then your streets will be full of employees with the stores parking.
Well, unless the people that run the businesses are smart enough to tell their, realize that their employees are blocking up their spot. But yeah, I remember that there was one person that parked in the same spot, and got a ticket all the time, and he said he didn't care because he would just pay the ticket, and he did that for about 10 years.
Well, it really depends, on the business, because some businesses are not as dependent on customers coming in
Sure.
as others are. But I can tell you that my office and the chief can speak for the police department, but we continue to get complaints of, this location, this car, every day is there all day long. And that's why we asked the police department to have the parking attendant come out on Saturdays, because some of the vendors for the farmer's market were designated that they could park here to unload, and we're leaving the vehicle there all day, and
Sure.
people attending the farmer's market couldn't use that space. So it is still problematic in some respects. Now, whether this is the best solution, or right now what we're doing is making chalk tires in the front and the back of the tires instead of on the tire. So we're not touching the tire, but we can tell if the car moved over it or back into it, because it'll scuff that chalk mark on the pavement. But that's problematic with rain and
Winter.
Winter, yeah, whatever. So, yeah. But if you all remember, I did the analysis back when I was chief, when we got rid of the meters. And Lieutenant Starcher at the time helped me put the numbers together, and it was pretty expensive to have the boxes or the devices where you fed money in and it gave you a ticket for an hour or 2 hours or whatever. The lots are timed differently than the streets. The streets are 3-hour spaces, and the inside island of the lot next to Porter's is 3 hours. The outer spaces are 10 hours. There's some 10 hours along the apartment building, and then 4 hours behind the old Ziegler's Town Square Commons now. And the entire Feckley lot is 10 hours. The Moose lot is all day, and the lot we just purchased on South Elmwood is all day. So there's plenty of parking, and we contract or have an agreement in place with the Castle Noel, which is all day. So there's plenty of parking. It's just some folks would rather have their car outside so they can keep their eyes on it all day long, and we'll pay a parking ticket every day to do that.
Well, I think that's the issue you're bringing up. I understand your point of maybe the system's the best, but maybe we gotta change the code to say, if you get a parking ticket a number of times, then the rate automatically goes up. I don't know if we're legally allowed to do that, but repeat offenders should be a laddered system, whereby if somebody wants to park there and pay the ticket, well, after 5 tickets, then it goes to $30, or after 10 tickets, it goes to $50. It'll discourage those habitual abusers
Repeat it.
from doing it. And maybe, I kind of like that strategy, because if you make a mistake and you get 1 ticket, you shouldn't be paid $50. So I'm not sure about just changing the amount from $10 to $25. That doesn't seem fair.
How do you document that one car?
With the system, you'll be able to
Yeah, the
document.
system would have that license plate.
I'm talking about, you're talking about if we went with this.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
I think there should be like we evaluate the number of tickets, because, okay, everybody makes a mistake or two within a year, but if you keep doing it over and over and over again, even at the farmer's market, they do it once, they do it the next week, well, then all of a sudden it starts getting expensive for them to do it. So maybe we look at that as
That's a good idea.
a possible solution in getting the system, because I think getting the system, not changing anything, I don't think that helps us.
No, we have to increase.
So I don't know how are we gonna get a suggestion of what those changes should be?
I don't know based off that, but I had a question about the way we document. You put the chalk marks in front of the tires, you said, behind it right now?
Yes.
Right now, yeah, you see he's chalking.
Well, this
the
system
doors.
takes a picture of the tire, correct? It looks for the valve.
Right.
Couldn't our parking attendant do the same thing and just draw a circle, like a clock, and say that the valve is on the 9 o'clock point?
Right now, he's doing that to a very select few vehicles, because he has to remember what kind of vehicle is in that spot that he marks.
I mean,
Yes.
like, if you did that plus the license plate number, Are all our spots numbered, I would assume somehow?
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
They're not.
Maybe that's the way we
And
go.
some of
about it.
it's stone, well, in the winter, it's kind of stone.
What's that?
And bad weather,
The
you
new
know, if it's
lot.
raining or.
Yeah, if it rains, it goes
Snow
away.
and just to be able to keep track of, okay, that was a gray Mercury in that lot, and I marked his door numbers, now there's a new car in there. Is that gray Mercury, or is it now a gray Mercedes that's sitting there? It's
That's too much to,
Right.
expect somebody
Yes.
walking around it. Yeah.
300 spots
Yeah.
times 300.
I think it comes out to about, which is more than I thought, that comes out to about 60 cars a day. Plus, yeah,
Being ticketed?
I don't know.
Well, they use
Comes
it,
out to 6.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say
6.5 cars a
Could
day.
be 6.5.
This calculator works like mine.
Yeah,
okay.
6.5. So we
I was at
would be doing
6.4.
this then for that number of cars.
I'm not gonna argue.
Now, understand that this person, because of the 29-hour rule, is working about 4.5,
Yeah,
5
he's-
hours a day at the most.
Okay, so it's not,
So now you've
it's
got to
not the
compress.
clock, so now we'd have to take the,
Right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not a full 8-hour day.
Correct.
And my goal would be just to break even. Because right now, what we're doing is, as you said, with the most cost-effective way, what we're doing right now is not the most
I think the
cost-effective
bigger
way.
thing is to get those individuals who park there as a parking spot. And they use that as a mechanism, say, it's only $10 a day, I don't care, I'll pay it. And maybe they say, well, I'm good to do it maybe 5 days a month, I'll do it. Well, maybe we have to set up a structure that it jumps. If you do it 4 times, well, then you knew you have a problem. And maybe it should be jumped to $100. And that'll eliminate that problem in a hurry.
well, I like the idea, I like the idea of building it up as people violate it, because that takes care of the Denny's issue. You know, where I just got out to get a newspaper and I got a $35 ticket. That, I think that makes some sense.
But that was a metered
Yeah,
parking.
right.
Do you
but
have
still-
any information
But
on
still,
repeat
you pay, you
offenders?
have
Do
to
you have
pay
any
that much
information on
for
repeat offenders? Like,
such a slight infraction.
Right.
You know, as opposed to you walking away and going to work all day.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, who's gonna come up with that? Do we gotta put in a committee to come up with the numbers, or who present the numbers, or what's reasonable, or we gotta talk that through?
We can, whatever numbers that you want, just give me a list. If you
Well, I
want
mean, we
repeat
gotta make
violators,
what's reasonable, I guess, that's the whole question we're looking at. I mean, do you give somebody 3 strikes, kind of, and then the 4th one, ooh, you're gonna get a $100 ticket?
that's why I brought this spirited discussion here.
So, I mean, that's the question.
I think 3's too much.
So do I.
Yeah. I would say 1 or 2 at the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get one
The third one?
ticket, how often do you get a ticket, you know, who's gotten a
Well-
ticket up there? I mean,
Well, that would be the visitor from out of town,
Well, that'd be
getting the
the
one
one
ticket.
ticket.
So you don't want that high.
Right.
If you get the employee that's there 2, 3 times, then that's.
Or
who
the
you want.
vendor,
Or
like
the
somebody
vendor.
from the farm market.
Well, anyone who's abusing it
Yes.
continually.
What's abuse, is it 1 ticket or 2? I mean, I guess, I understand what you're saying, but
I say, I have the third strike.
3rd one, you get that big fee.
You have 3 hours. So the ones that are going
You're
to
gonna
be
have 2
abused.
parking decks within 2 blocks of where
Right.
we're parking.
Two parking decks.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't,
So most of the patrons to the businesses, you know, even if you're going to lunch.
Well, remember, is
you're
it
gonna be done with
1
there.
ticket a year, 1 ticket every 12 months?
So the
1 ticket
people that are
every
getting
6
tickets
months?
are probably the ones that are.
You gotta do that
abusing
then, too.
Right.
yeah, I would say within a 12 months, you think?
Sure, 12 months sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Within a 12-month period, and then,
Your first
I
ticket's
checked
at
with Mr.
$10, your
I checked-
second ticket's what, like $30? Your 3rd ticket goes up to like $75, because, I mean, come on, you do it 3 times.
come on,
I wouldn't have it roll over though after a year.
you would what?
Well,
not have it roll over
No, you have to go 12 months from your last infraction before it resets, the clock resets.
Yes.
Would not have
You're
it
saying
roll over.
ever, Jim? Ever?
Well, that's kind of harsh there.
I'm just saying, if you have-
I mean, if you try once or twice and you keep doing it, it's like, okay, you're at $75 from this point forward, then.
You could have it freeze at 75.
Sure, that's
I mean,
what
it
I'm
could
thinking.
be first ticket 10, 3rd ticket 30, 4th ticket, whatever, and once you hit 75, you just, there's, you stay
Your
there.
next ticket's gonna be that.
I guess unless you get a new car.
Or a new license plate.
Yeah, get a new license.
That's why you don't want it too high. 2 is good.
Keep it below the cost of the license plate.
That's pretty expensive, like $150.
Okay, so we're talking about redoing the the parking ordinance,
Mhm.
which we're gonna have to work a request. Mr. Huber said it is possible to have an escalating, even though it's a civil process. So we're good with that. We'll have to do a request for council action. Are we still okay?
Well, here's the
with
next
pursuing
question, because
something like
Denny
that?
made a good point. Do we want to have an incentive to people also, if they paid early, they pay within 24, 48 hours?
You got that now.
Yeah, we have
First
that,
one only.
You have that now. It goes from 10 to 20, I think.
maybe 15.
Maybe 15.
Not 100%.
But you don't want the incentive on the multiple
Yes.
users.
Oh, no, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can make it worse, though. If you go to 35 for
Yeah.
24 hours or 48, whatever you want, and then it escalates beyond 35
Right.
for the second offense. And then the same thing with the 75. The 75, you don't pay it within the 48, it goes to 100 or whatever.
Yeah, you may want to keep that advantage, because I don't know how collectible these are as civil.
Well, we still have in our code, I think, that unless that changed when we made it civil, it used to be if you had so many outstanding ones, we could take your vehicle
Yeah.
and keep it until you paid them. From experience. that
Well,
works
I mean,
very well.
I'm not going to solve this problem tonight, so, I mean,
People would
try to
write
think
big
of
checks to
something
get
like
their cars
that.
back.
Come back to us, and I don't know if we can put it in a committee for discussion if you wanted to do that, or just come to finance and try to solve it.
But I think the question is, do we want to move forward with having them get the device?
Yes, I think so.
I don't think, there
I don't
doesn't
think-
appear to be an alternative
Right.
to this.
I don't think there's-
I don't see an alternative now. There has been, this case originated in Saginaw, Michigan.
Yeah.
And it's a sixth district court of appeals that covers Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky. And it was the three-panel judge. And that's who made this decision. There have been some rumors, and I don't know where it's at. I tried to find out where they were at in this process of having the entire district court review this case as well. I don't know if the ruling will be different.
Which is 7 judges.
I think 13.
13.
Well, let me complicate it some more. What if they do it like 3 or 4 times, maybe we can boot them?
What?
Put a
Oh,
boot on their
put that
tire,
lockout.
and then they have to come and pay before they get the boot off.
But then aren't we touching them? We're touching the vehicle?
Well, then it's a violation.
It's a
Then
violation.
there's a violation.
Okay,
Established
so that
right.
makes- Okay.
So, I mean, that's something where, because like you said, how do you collect? Somebody drives out of town, you're never gonna see them again, most likely, but if there's a habitual offender that
Right.
comes in and gets away all the time, never pays, you may wanna put a boot on it.
And the habitual offender is not going to be the person that drives out of town probably. The habitual offender is going to be somebody
Who's here all the
going to be
time.
here.
So we have to think about something like that, where if you get somebody that's over like $500, you may wanna just.
I like that idea, that would be great.
Boot them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know that we need to go to that extreme. I mean, if we get to there, we can, but I'm telling you that from past experience,
People pay.
You put your patrol car back there and call for a tow truck, and that person's up at the station writing a check for $150, $200, whatever those tickets are, and then they have to settle
Okay.
up with a tow truck driver. And
Okay.
it's a real incentive to get them.
Okay. All right, so present us something, we're gonna have a motion to approve this, but then we have to, I think we have to modify the parking code, the payment structure and
Well,
the.
they,
Yeah, this is actually just for discussion, just so we can
Oh,
talk
is it?
about it. I can give you a formal proposal.
No, this isn't.
And these are two different companies. These are two different companies that gave us the proposals.
You're recommending the UP.
Yeah, I'm recommending the cheaper of the two, the UPS.
I guess I was thinking you wanted to move forward on that and then come back with the ordinance as far as.
Well,
Yes, yes, we
Also,
can.
whatever company you pick, we gotta pick a company that's gonna be in business.
Yes.
So I don't wanna pick a company that is 2 years later out of business and we're like, well, we can't do
Big
this.
dragon cannon.
Worcester is a similar situation to us with their downtown parking, and they use UPS and have for many years.
Okay, all right, anything else?
Oh, yeah, I do have one other question. Is this going to be utilized just in the historic district, or is this going to be utilized citywide?
Just in the historic district, for the square parking area.
Let me see why.
Well, you get people parking on the same side of the street as a fire hydrant, or parking
You don't need a
between
picture.
2 p.m.,
That's
2
a
a.m. and 5 a.m.
Patrol officers do that.
It is a different,
Patrol officers do that?
it's a different violation, but the patrol officers do that,
Okay.
because obviously it wouldn't be feasible to buy.
But it happens all the time too, with
Devices.
parties, people coming out of town, people going to, I mean, you gotta have some judgment there.
Okay. All right.
And we do that, we allow permission to park
Yeah.
on our streets overnight.
Right, but a lot of people don't even know
You have to call in
that.
first,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, you can't, you gotta be, there's some people drive in, or I can see it happen, sleepovers, people don't know.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, then we got 19105, a state bid for equipment for new police cruisers for Pars Public Safety. Chief, you're on a roll here.
Yeah.
Did we want to do a motion?
No,
You know-
it's just discussion for that.
Do you want us to come back?
I thought.
Yeah, this is the
You wanted to
proposal.
do it.
If we can approve this with UPS, that would be great.
Oh.
But Chief, just for my benefit, what we're looking at is 85, 13, 60?
Yeah, what's the
Yes, for the
cost?
first year.
Okay.
That's the first year cost.
And we do it year to year, so
And then,
we could take it to board control.
Well, this could be, I mean, if they
As
approve
long
it
as
now,
you-
then you're good to go, so.
No, he can say he can take a board of control without council approving anything. Finance.
I mean, but you're allowed to approve it.
Yeah,
And
then he doesn't have to go back
But then
to
we
board
have to wait to go to council, right?
Right.
Or
No,
it's done
No,
here?
this is
under
20.
20.
Yeah, it's under that, you don't go to finance.
Okay. Well, if you guys want to just do it tonight, then that'll save us
All right.
waiting 2 weeks.
I make a motion to approve UPS as the vendor.
You okay? Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now you're up. You're
okay,
good.
equipment?
Yes.
Thank you. This is for the upfit. This is the actual equipment for the upfit for the 5 police cruisers that we were authorized to purchase several council sessions ago.
How much is it?
That's the total for all 5 cars.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions on that?
No.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 19106, Medina Municipal Airport Consultant Selection. Who's this? Is Patrick Huber?
Pat.
Pat?
Pat here.
I guess so. The FAA requires us to do every 5 years a qualification-based selection process to select our airport consultant. This is required because, as you know, 90% of any of our capital projects at the airport's paid by the FAA grants every year, so we have to comply with their rules. So to comply with that, we did advertise for and received responses from 3 firms. Greg and I reviewed that, and I think we'd like to recommend that we stick with Desmond. Delta? Delta.
Red?
Yeah, get my something mixed up. With Delta.
And the reason mainly being because they've been doing it and
Well, and they have some projects that are mid-process, so to switch firms in the middle of it would not make the best sense.
questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the Delta Airport consultant with the emergency clause.
Second including emergency clause?
Any other comments, questions? We haven't had really any issues with Delta, have we? Haven't heard anything over the years that we have concerns except for some of the costs for engineering?
Yeah, it's more the cost than anything else, not the quality of the work, just the cost. And, you know, we don't know until we compare. They let you bid these, but you're not allowed to ask the cost.
How do you know?
In our mind is the most important thing, what's the cost per hour, what's the cost for doing all these paperwork, but you're not allowed to ask that, so. It doesn't make sense to us right now with the 2 projects pending to add another consultant into it until we get those 2 wrapped up at least.
One of the things that Pat and I talked about were to approve this for now, to comply with the FAA request that we get this process done, and then revisit this next year, within which time I will have the costs, because I've got some ability to ferret that information out, but it's going to take a little time.
Okay.
Is this for a 5-year renewal for Delta?
No,
Is it every 5
just
years?
1 year.
In order to, okay.
Yeah, we have to do it at minimum every 5 years, but there's no reason we couldn't do it every year if we wanted to.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 19107, Reagan Park, Eliza Northrop Connector Trail for Parks. Jansen.
Thank you. This request is to authorize the mayor to enter into a declaration of mutual easements and cooperation agreement with the Board of Education, Medina City Schools. We've talked about this project at the joint school board, city council meeting last year. The school district is looking to add a connection from the back of Eliza Northrop through the wetland to the lower level parking at Reagan Park. This will do a couple things. It'll improve access to the school facilities, as well as expand recreational opportunities for the students that are there, as well as interconnect the school to the park better for recreational activities. So we've worked on this project for a number of years now, and recently changed the design to go straight to the back of the school, so it doesn't impact such a large portion of the wetland. And the emergency clause was requested because they would like to bid this project relatively soon, with anticipated construction sometime in the fall. Yeah.
I support this 100%, but I think another advantage to this would be, and I may be wrong, I don't know, that a lot of the parents utilize Reagan Parkway and the Reagan Park entrance off Reagan Parkway to pick up and drop off their kids. This may decrease the traffic congestion on Reagan Parkway if they know they can come off of Worcester Route 3, go into the park to drop their kids off in the back of the school. And plus the things that you mentioned.
Yeah, and it's a pretty big, obviously, there's a benefit for the school.
Right.
Because the kids there, I know personally that they don't really have a location for field day because they don't have an open field
Right.
at their school. So there's definitely a lot of benefit to this. Just for your information, it is about 670 feet long. Approximately 260 feet of that is wood decking that is laid on basically pads across the wetland, so it doesn't disturb the wetland. There is a portion of it, about 400 feet, that's asphalt, that's going to be closer to the parking lot side where there's not it's not on that wetland delineation line.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great. And this is with the emergency clause also?
Yes, correct, and the school's paying for it.
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second?
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Abstain.
Oh, any abstentions?
Aye.
Oh, forgot that already. 19108, income tax reallocation, we're going to really discuss this tomorrow, but Keith's not going to be able to be there, so the real reason for this, you could just give the synopsis of.
The short explanation of this is, the state passed the
Please,
gas.
sorry.
The state passed their gas tax increase, which is gonna mean about $500,000 a year in additional revenue to the city of Medina. It's something where we don't get any inflationary increases because the gas tax is set up in cents per gallon rather than a percentage, and they haven't increased it for a number of years, which is one of the reasons we had to start providing income tax money to the street fund. The increase that we're gonna get because of the gas tax increase will be enough to do two things. One is that the healthcare, and you'll see it in the budgets, is been put back into the street fund. For the last 3 or 4 years, we had moved that to the 108 fund because we didn't have money in the street fund. With this increase, we'll be able to do that. And additionally, the 1% of the income tax that we've been allocating to the street fund will no longer be needed because the $500,000 is enough to cover the healthcare and replace that 1%. So I gave you the history of the income tax allocation back to '05, which was really the first full year of collections of the current rate. Because I know some of you are new, I wanted to let you see what we've done over the years with that allocation. It is explained in there, but so you understand, that's not actually all of the income tax, even though it says 100%, it's 100% of the portion that council has the discretion to allocate. Because the ballot language that the voters approved mandates that that .25 goes into the street storm capital construction maintenance and repair fund, which is the 108 fund. So that portion is automatic, and then the rest is up to council, up to you.
Now, 1% is equal now, what is it, about 75,000?
Oh, no, it's 100, it's a little over 100.
Oh, is it that much? Oh, yeah, because we were 13 million,
It was over 14, so.
14?
It's improving.
But that 14 includes that .25, so
Right,
20% of that goes to the 108 fund. So then what's left is, but it's still over 10, so you're a little over 100,000, 100%.
So we'll have to discuss that, because once we do the budgets every year, we look at the allocation of the income tax, how we're gonna do it. where do we want that 1% to go, you know, stuff like that.
Because I got a couple ideas.
You do?
Yeah, we're taking some of it anyway to get us through some technological humps.
I figured that. Good. Yeah, I figured that. So we'll talk about that. Maybe not so much on Wednesday, but later on. Just so you're aware of what's going on.
I gave you the history of where it goes. Any questions you have, let me know.
Okay.
I've asked to increase the unanticipated capital fund. I kind of laid out the reasons for that. That was set up as $1 million a number of years ago.
It's close to $1 million now.
Right, but $1 million's not what it was when we set it up that way, so that's why I'm asking for it again.
Okay. 19109, agreement with Brand Center Carroll, Medina County Design, Planning, and Construction Management Services for joint construction of the city, county, city courthouse. Aaron?
Thank you. So, just a clarification, I had in the request for council action that the Board of County Commissioners had already approved the agreement between the city and the county. That's not the case. They approved the AIA document that was the attachment there, and they also approved the contract with Branstetter and Carroll to do this, but they were waiting to make sure we didn't have any changes, so they didn't pass it once and then have to go back and revise it. So once I let them know that we were submitting it to council when Mr. Huber approved it, then they're taking it tomorrow evening. They're having the commissioners meeting at 6 o'clock, and I plan to attend that to encourage their approval of it. But we expect that'll pass tomorrow night with the Board of County Commissioners before you vote on it at council 2 weeks from now.
And just to clarify, the B108 is a maximum amount for the architectural services. It's not based upon the size of the building or...
Right, the 133 to Branstetter Carroll is for design and planning. What's not known yet is the construction manager at risk, and we have the same percentage, 25% of whatever those costs are. But for every, the construction manager at risk for the dollars saved, then they get some percentage of that. So they have an incentive to kind of keep the cost down. Yes, sir.
And the total cost of the contract that, with the architect, correct me if I'm wrong, is around $500,000? I can't remember the total number. We were trying to, our share would be about 130-some thousand, 135,000.
This is 25% of it, so it'd be 4 times 133.
Right, that's...
So 5.2-ish.
Yeah, okay, factor into it, okay. So, this doesn't say that we're gonna pay 25% of the construction cost of the building. We didn't get that contract. These are different contracts.
Right. Right.
So we're just at the beginning phases, because we don't know how much really we can spend, right? We kind of had an idea what it was, and time was going on. We don't know what's gonna happen to the economy. It could get worse, could get better. So those costs could fluctuate. And the size of the building, technically what we think is that by combining it, the amount of space that we need for ours will be smaller. So it shouldn't be the same numbers. So all that stuff's open still. We have no...
Can the municipal judge use his funds to pay for this?
That's what's going to be proposed. I mean, I emailed him back and forth, and he thought the city should participate, but I think we participate depending on what the cost of the project would be. Initially, like we did with Judge Chase, Judge Chase pays for it all out of his funds.
Thank you.
Do we have a commitment from the county that they're going to go forward with this? We're not just going to be giving them $133,000 to design something that's just going to go poof?
I think the county has a little bit more invested. I don't think...
I agree, but I mean, to stay with us, with the city, and are we committed to stay with them as well?
Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable. John's been added to the committee to have a council representative there as well. And we've repeatedly stressed with them that our interest is to build a safe and functional and usable building with as much financial constraint as possible. And the impression I have from 2 of the 3 commissioners is that they have that same interest.
And this will start the process of getting the input from the public about what the look will be like. I think that's correct, right, man? The next
That's right.
step after this will be trying to determine
Right.
and getting input about what they would want to do with the look on the square and whatnot. So that would be the input of the public.
So we shared with them that they would be required to have meetings with the public at large, the CDC, Historical Society, Archive Commission, and the City Historic Preservation Board. That those groups, Main Street, I think as well, those groups as groups, but also the public. And as well as, this is not just a Medina thing, so we discussed at the meeting last week at the commissioner's hearing room that they should not only have hearings for public input in the city of Medina, but also Brunswick and Wadsworth, because it's a county court system, so those folks should have some input as well.
So the design that was kind of first presented, I mean, everybody got all alarmed because it's like, oh, that was the conceptual, the fit kind of thing, but I get it. So everybody's concerned, well, they're tearing everything, what is going on? So that'll be discussed next.
Okay.
Thank you. So is everybody okay with that?
So is the funding coming from?
Well, it'd have to come from the special projects fund, and we could talk with the judge about that, but I mean, that's what we, it doesn't matter the judge, that's what we do with Judge Chase, remember? I mean,
We did do Chase.
We've been pretty consistent, so I think that's important. I mean, I think we've always pretty been consistent with that.
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second including emergency clause?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Huber already looked at this too, so.
Yes, sir. He approved it.
19110, new EPA regulation of stormwater management, erosion control, and illicit discharge.
Thank you. I don't think we're probably in a position to approve these tonight, but I want to get them before you. We are required, we have a stormwater discharge permit with the Ohio EPA. Not every, but most communities are required to have these. Part of that permit, we are required to pass certain ordinances to govern stormwater management, erosion control, and illicit discharge. The model ordinances that I submitted were obtained from Chagrin Valley Rivershed Partners, which is a local organization dedicated to this sort of thing. Many communities in Northeast Ohio have adopted these, kind of taken them as a model code and make them specific to their city. Basically what we have there is the model code, go through and kind of massage it to fit the city of Medina's needs. And Mr. Huber still has to review these as well. Basically, it's nothing new. It does add some teeth to our ordinances, which the EPA likes, some penalties and some enforcement abilities and that sort of thing.
Will this replace the existing ordinances, or how does this work?
And we really don't have anything specific like this. Currently, our excavation, grading, and drainage ordinance, I think it's 1341, it basically references Medina County's regulations. We did that a number of years ago. The idea, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We didn't have the time or ability to go through. It's about a 50 or 60 page document. Actually, there's two different ones. So we just adopted their rules. That'll be replaced, so to speak, or at least the erosion sediment control portion will be with these.
So we got these ordinances will say that it's replacing those sections. Because we have to eliminate or repeal, we have to repeal.
Yeah,
sections.
yeah, well, yeah.
So we have to have another ordinance to repeal the existing one and replace it.
Right, and that I think we have to go through, because that 1341, it's one of the subsections that this is all covered in, so I don't think we're not repealing the whole section, the whole chapter, only a portion of it.
All right, so we gotta get those, whatever, we gotta figure what we gotta have to repeal and replace and.
Correct, yeah.
Do you want to move those to special legislation?
How involved is that gonna be?
It shouldn't be too bad. I mean, it's 3 new chapters. I don't think it's going to be terribly difficult.
Do you want to review it, or do you want to come to finance?
Yeah, I mean, we could do it and then bring it to you. It's fine. We can work with Patrick. We'll be more in the meeting or two probably.
Right.
He'll do most of the work.
Okay.
Oh, is the mic on?
Okay, so let's move that to special legislation and figure out what sections will need to be repealed and then what will be added and confirm and all that.
Is there a time, you know, how soon?
It's not a rush,
Okay.
but we don't want to let it sit around.
It's gotta be done before the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Patrick, are there any other examples of existing ordinances that fit this bill that we could compare and contrast?
I could get some.
Yeah.
I know this is the one most people that I talk to kind of point to, but it's certainly not the only one.
Yeah, I'd like to see another one or two, please,
Okay.
just so we're sure we have the whole picture. And then what do they mean by illicit discharge?
That we deal with now. For instance, earlier this year, we had a gasoline spill. There's an equipment malfunction at a local filling station. And we had to respond to that along with the fire department.
Okay.
It was quickly corrected, but that's considered an illicit discharge.
Okay, all right, thank you. I just couldn't visualize what that meant. Thank you.
Okay. 19-111, expenditure of $15,000 to Data Command LLC for the water. Nino.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this request is to upgrade all our radio telemetry to cellular, from radio to cellular. The initial hardware was installed in '01. I sent this late Friday, I apologize, I'm not sure if you had a chance to read some of the reasons for the upgrade. Basically, the radio parts, pieces, system is not going to be supported any longer. Industry standard seems to be going towards cellular. There's an upgrade required for City Hall, which is the data bridge, as well as the water plant, Spieth Road, that's about $20,000 on an estimate. So this cost that we received from Data Command, who's been our vendors since '09, there's an estimate of $19,000, as you see, with the caveat being a cellular recurring cost of $840 respectively, $540. It just varies from pump station to pump station and tank location. We did talk to Sergeant Zaremba, and we're seeing about $60 a month is the cost for cellular type service similar to this. Again, it's the industry standard that is being upgraded to. So a couple things that are important, like right now, our telemetry unit at City Hall that has the panel view is not on the backup generator here. We've tried cost estimates, just cost prohibitive, as well as the generators of 45 kVA, so there's not room. Most of PD, well, the important parts of PD is on that generator. So we have an outage up and coming with this removal of Edison's poles and the work for the parking deck. So we're gonna have an outage here at PD City Hall in the respective area for about 6 hours, and the telemetry unit will not be on that. So this cellular service will avoid problems like that and situations like that if they ever occur. What has to happen is we have to have our guys in the field have eyes on, because they won't be able to see tank elevations, they'll just simply see pressures. So we won't be totally blind, but they will have to be at the respective stations and locations to monitor that. So that's pretty much.
Is this compatible with any other kind of software systems or information gathering that we need, or is there going to be a
I don't
problem
know
with
the
that?
answer, I just know that, you know, this is the cost of the upgrade. I can find that.
If we upgrade, we want to make sure it's still compatible.
Well, it's cellular, so it's compatible with what we're using at the Progressive tank, because we have one tank that was put in line on, in 2009, so all our systems, the Progressive tank has been cellular, so it's compatible with that, from what I understand. If that answers your question.
I think his question was the data that it's using is compatible with what we're using.
Our software
For
programs
billing and
internally.
software in the water department and those things.
It will, yes, I'm sorry, it
Oh,
will be. Plus,
so-
it's upgraded, so it will be.
I didn't know if it's going to add an additional cost on the software programs we have at City Hall to link
That'll go
up
away.
with that, or maintenance contracts, or...
You know, those will go away with respect to the piano view and the telemetry unit. Now, you're talking with meter gathering, that's totally separate, that's census, that's unrelated, but it's its own entity.
Questions?
Approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And finally, discussion item, an update from the MCRC fitness room from Mr. Wright and Mr. Arnold.
Would like to. Thank you, Mr. President. So Kathy's given us 30 seconds to present this, and as fast as you can.
Good.
So obviously, there are some concerns the last time we looked at this presentation with the roof line itself, where the building met the new fitness room, and the drop zone of about a 4 to 6 foot area. Bob has revised that and sent over these preliminaries. I also sent them on to Chris Kwolek and John Burkhart, just so they could send it to the school's architect for review also, because I know they were concerned about the same issue. So Bob's here tonight to talk about what he's designed and what we plan to do with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come up here so I can point to it for you, if you don't mind.
Sorry to bring a laser pointer.
The one thing I do want to mention is that we did meet with the school personnel about how this is attached to the building.
Gotcha.
And they were very concerned with the slope of this existing roof here and water coming down and across and so forth. So I've worked with that quite a bit and tried some optional ways. I mean, they went as far as saying, can we detach it from the building? And which puts this whole thing, I mean, they talked about pulling it totally away from the building, which puts it right into that ravine that's back there, makes it a much more difficult and expensive project to do. Plus, you got to try to, how does it function then for Mike's programs and everything. The other one they mentioned was pull it away 10 feet and still leave that cavern in there and still have 2 walkways that connect. I just think that's a maintenance, absolutely maintenance nightmare, because they wanted to keep the gutter working the way it is. So what I've done is I've left it this way, and just so you're familiar, this is the pool over here, and then this is the fitness center in here, and with the addition here. So it's still there, but what Mike and I have kicked around, and I did implement in here, is that when you come through the doors now, we used to have it where this was all flat. It was all at the same level. This is now down 2 steps. So they happen right here at this column line. There's a column line that comes up around here. And there's another one over here at this door where you go in to go down a step, and then also when you come in, there's a ramp that goes right along the wall here. So handicap and everybody's taken care of, you go down 2 steps. Part of what we did there was to try to get the roof down so that we're not going so far up onto the existing metal roof with our new roof. But the other one was we got to looking at the land out there, and it slopes away. It slopes away from this. And when you're out here, you're down a little bit. And I wasn't sure what kind of soil we had. We just got the soil borings, was it Thursday or last week, I think? I think it was Thursday we got the soil borings. And I was looking at them over the weekend, and I noticed that in this corner of the building, there's 1 foot 14 inches of topsoil, which all has to come off. And if you build on top of that, then you got to put engineered soil in, or you got to put something in. Back here it's 9 inches, here it's 6, and here it's 12. So there's a significant amount of topsoil on this property, and it slopes away. So I'm actually kicking around. I was just mentioning to Mike a little bit ago, I think I'm going to drop this another step, which is another 7 inches. Because by the time you come from this door to this door, the top of the ground, from what I can tell on the original drawings, because we don't have the site survey yet. You don't have the site survey yet, right? Yeah, so the site survey, we're waiting for that, so I don't really know yet what I'm dealing with on the site. But I believe, from what I can see, I can drop it another step, because I think this drops actually about 1.5 feet between here and here. So that'll help keep the cost down on having to put so much soil back in there that you can build on. So that's one thing. Mike, if you want to go to the next one. This is the elevation we're talking about. This actually is the higher one. This line now is down about here. I've been able to drop it down. This is the section with the existing building here, the fitness room. This is the roof that comes down, the metal roof comes right down here, and there's a gutter right here. So what we did is we have the truss here, and before, when we talked about it before, this was up a little bit higher. We've been able to drop it a couple feet. And like I said, you come in and then there's some steps here, and this is down a little bit lower, but I'm gonna actually drop that a little more, because it's a couple reasons for that. One is because of what's happening in the soil. But the other one is I'd like to actually get a little bit more slope here. So if I can drop this end of the truss down a little bit more, and even the other end a little bit, and come up, even a little bit better on that roof, that would be good, because I'll tell you, the school, we still have to talk to the school about this, but they're very leery about having this. One reason that for moving away the building, they wanted to get a much steeper roof on it. This is on the north side of this big wall here. So, there will be snow that will collect there. But go to the next drawing. What I did was I blew that, actually flip back just a second. This section here is this area right here where the two buildings connect. Okay, so go to the next one. This is the existing wall, and there's door right here. This is where you see the walkway comes in and goes down 2 steps. There's a column here about 6 feet in. This is where the gutter is, right up here. This is the overhang, and then it's all window down through here. So what we did was we're bringing this in, and we're hitting it down pretty low. But if I can bring this building down just a little bit more, I can even keep that down lower. But one kind of a unique feature that I'm putting into this is we're actually cutting the deck way up here, or the metal roof way up here, and putting new metal flashing in, and then creating this vertical slope. Because what they're worried about, what the school's worried about, and I am too, is if you collect enough snow there, it can start melting and water ice damming can happen. So I'm trying to avoid that and trying to keep, if water were to collect here, that it wouldn't go up in there. So we kind of rebuild that whole section there to try to overcome that. So and then this is the roof here. You didn't see this last time, but this is that whole section right there where that is. And what happens with the roof is this section comes out flat. There's a parapet here. And so what I did was I built this. This is a high point on the roof, and this is high across here. This is where it slopes down. So everything slopes down this way, and then down that way, and goes onto this roof, and then goes over there and then into the building. So
we keep the desired 12-foot ceiling that we wanted in the fitness room by dropping the floor. So that worked out well, and then it got the roof line lower too.
Yeah, it's been a lot of looking around different things and trying to figure out how to solve this thing. So, but we're getting there, and I'm ready to make a decision. And let's get this thing cranked out and get it going. I think we all are. So, anything else, Mike?
I'd send over the same preliminaries to John and Chris just to see if the school architect wanted to look at it still, or if the school board wanted a preview of it again. We're welcome to come to any of those meetings and go over it too if they need us to.
Yeah, they did make that request of having us give them the drawings so that they can actually send it to Fanning and Howie, the original architect, and have them at least look at it. They're not doing any design on it, but look at it and see if it's okay.
Thank you.
Okay?
Questions?
Cost-wise, still working on it. He's got to put together a cost estimate for the changes.
Yeah, the cost
Maybe
is
an
fluctuating
increase.
around a little bit. I don't have an answer on exactly where it's at yet, but, because there's some groundwork, and then I'm trying to get the mechanicals, because before, all the mechanical stuff was numbers that I put in there.
And that groundwork would have to occur anyways, right, because it's topsoil? Mostly.
We didn't know, this is all new, we didn't know.
Oh, but I mean,
what it was
you'd have to move that topsoil under the old scenario too.
Yeah, but a lot of
Right.
times the topsoil.
Not
not all that
14
much.
inches, yeah. Pretty deep.
So the cost is going down, right?
I hope so.
Cost went down
Every step I put in.
Any other questions? Nothing before finance? All right, the budget meeting is on Wednesday, you're right, not Tuesday.
It's amazing that I do that.
It's on the calendar.
Yeah, so.
You can look at the calendar, you can find the days. All right, with that means adjourned.
It's amazing.